I never imagined I would spend spring festival evening in a hospital corridor with tea stains down my blouse and a thin line of blood trailing from my eyebrow. Yet that's exactly where I found myself, pressing a tissue against my forehead while typing 4 quiet words to my lawyer. Phase 1 is done, but let me take you back. My name is Marina Diallo, 62 years old, retired from my school librarian job 3 years ago. My husband Armin passed away 6 years ago after a sudden stroke. Since then, I've lived alone in our 2-story home in Lakeview Crest, a peaceful neighborhood on the edge of Calgary. We bought the house in 1995 for $190,000. Today, the place is valued a little over $1.7 million, mostly thanks to new tech complexes nearby and an influx of young families who love electric SUVs and yard-to-table gardens. My only child, Leona, is 34. She works as a marketing manager for a medical device company, always busy, always in meetings. She married Ryan, a polite man on the surface, but emotionally unpredictable when stressed. They live about 40 minutes away in Maple Ridge, in a townhouse complex filled with identical beige units. They have one daughter, Mira, who just turned 9. I see her once every few weeks, less lately. This year's spring festival dinner was my responsibility, as always. Tradition. Armin loved hosting, so I kept the ritual alive. I spent Saturday steaming fish, prepping vegetable momos, arranging mandarins on the table, and baking Armin's favorite coconut rice pudding from his old handwritten recipe. The house smelled worn, familiar, comforting. They arrived at 4 p.m. sharp. I watched from the window as Leona stepped out of their hybrid SUV, smoothing her blaze as always. Ryan followed, carrying a narrow gift bag with a bottle inside. Expensive liquor, no doubt. Ryan only brings such things when there's an agenda. I learned that a long time ago. "Ma," Leona called as she walked in. She hugged me quickly, stiff and formal. Mira, at least, was genuine. She ran to me with open arms. Ryan kissed my cheek lightly. "Marina, thank you again for having us. I brought something special from an Alberta distillery. Very smooth." "You didn't need to bring anything," I said. "Oh, I insist," he replied, wearing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. We settled in the living room. I had prepared the dining table carefully, but Leona seemed impatient, like there was something they needed to get through before the meal. And I was right. Leona sat forward, crossing her legs. Glancing at Ryan, he gave her a small nod. "Ma," she began, "we've been thinking a lot about your situation." "My situation?" I asked, even though I already knew the direction this was going. "You're alone in a big house," Ryan said. "It's difficult to maintain. We worry about you. What if you fall? What if you need help?" I kept my voice steady. "I managed just fine." Ryan leaned in. "We have a suggestion. My parents are planning to relocate closer to the city. Housing is too expensive, but you have 2 empty rooms." The moment he said it, my stomach tightened, because this was exactly what my lawyer predicted. What they didn't know was that I had been preparing for this confrontation for 6 months, and every step they took next would play straight into the plan. I folded my hands in my lap and let them talk. It was better to hear the full pitch before responding. Leona cleared her throat and tried to sound gentle. "Ma, Ryan's parents are wonderful people. His father just retired from his transit supervisor job. His mother ran a small bakery for years. They're active, responsible, and really family-oriented." Ryan picked up instantly. "They've been looking everywhere in the region, but the market is impossible. Even renting is outrageous. We thought, maybe they could stay with you. Temporarily." Temporarily. The word dropped like a stone. I had met Ryan's parents only 3 times. They were polite, yes, but they had a habit of speaking as though the world owed them comfort. The last time we met, Ryan's mother casually told me my house was far too big for one woman, and that grandparents should cluster together. I remembered smiling politely, while Armin squeezed my hand under the table. "Your parents want to move into my house?" I asked. Ryan spread his hands like it was the most reasonable idea in the world. "It benefits everyone. They'd pay a little rent. They'd help around the house. You'd have company. We'd all be closer." Leona nodded quickly. Too quickly. "And Mira would love to visit more. She keeps saying she wants to spend more time with you." That hurt, because it was true. Mira had been asking, but that wasn't the reason behind this suggestion. Not even close. I stayed silent long enough that Leona shifted uncomfortably. The truth was, I already knew something like this was coming. 3 months earlier, my financial advisor called me about an attempted login to one of my investment accounts. The attempt failed, but the system caught someone using my birth date, Armin's birth city, and my old security phrase. The attempt came from Ryan's work IP address. I didn't confront him. I didn't confront Leona either. Instead, I contacted Aisha Malik, a sharp estate lawyer who used to specialize in elder financial abuse cases. She listened to everything quietly and then told me something that chilled me. This happens more than people think, she said. Adult children or their spouses start circling the assets. They push for co-living arrangements. They position themselves as caregivers. Then they build a case that the elder is incapable of managing alone. Once that argument is established, power of attorney is next. Her words stayed with me for weeks. So we made a plan. A cognitive exam with a geriatric specialist, updated will and trust documents, written records of every financial detail, and yes, small cameras placed in the living room, dining room, and kitchen. Non-invasive, not sneaky, just evidence. For moments exactly like this. I exhaled slowly. I'm not interested, I said. Ryan blinked. In what part? In any of it, I replied. I like my space. I like my quiet. I'm not opening my home to anyone. Leona straightened, her polite expression starting to crack. Ma, don't be stubborn. You're 62. You need to think realistically. What happens when you're older? When I'm older, I said calmly, I'll decide what happens. Not you. Not your in-laws. Ryan's jaw tightened. Leona looked shocked. They hadn't expected pushback, but the real confrontation hadn't even started yet. Because what Ryan said next was the moment everything shifted, and the moment I realized just how far they were willing to go. Ryan leaned back in his chair and gave a strained smile that didn't match the tension in his eyes. Marina, he said, we're just trying to help you think long-term. You're alone in this big house. You don't cook as much anymore. What if something happens and no one is around? I manage perfectly well, I answered. Ryan didn't even bother hiding his frustration this time. Look, my parents are ready. They already gave notice at their rental. They're expecting to move by the end of next month. My pulse slowed, steady, controlled, because that was new and revealing. They've already prepared to move into my home, I repeated. Leona's face paled slightly, realizing what Ryan had let slip. Ma, it's not like that. They just need certainty. You have more than enough room. It's practical. Practical for whom? I asked. Neither answered. I stood up. Let me check on dinner. I walked into the kitchen and closed the door behind me. I set my palms on the counter and inhaled. I didn't shake. I didn't cry. I simply breathed. Because Aisha told me this exact pattern would unfold. Almost step by step. They'll escalate the pressure, she had warned. When you decline, expect guilt-driven arguments. If that fails, expect anger. The fish was steaming perfectly, vegetables soft and aromatic. I centered myself in the familiar rhythm of preparing food. Armin used to hum while cooking, and sometimes I caught myself humming the same tune. When I carried the dishes to the dining table, the tension was thick but controlled. Nira chatted about her school project, while Leona nodded absently, her mind elsewhere. Ryan kept his eyes fixed on his plate. The meal began quietly. So, Ryan said midway through dinner, have you reconsidered? No, I replied. He set his fork down with a clatter. You're being unreasonable. Leona shot him a warning look, but he continued. You're living in a house worth nearly $2 million. Alone. Meanwhile, my parents are struggling to find a decent place. We're stretched thin with bills, with childcare, with everything. You have so much space going to waste. It's my home, I said calmly. Not wasted space. My life is built here, Ryan scoffed. Your life? Marina, your husband has been gone 6 years. You barely leave the neighborhood. You're isolating yourself. This arrangement would actually improve your life. The jab hit harder than I expected. I swallowed. Ryan, I said quietly, my grief is not an invitation. Leona exhaled sharply and pressed her fingers to her forehead. Can we please not make this dramatic? We're offering you a solution. A good one. I leaned back in my chair. A solution to whose problem? They didn't respond. Fine, Leona said, voice tight. Tell us exactly why you won't consider it. I looked between them and answered honestly, because I don't want to. Ryan's face hardened instantly. The polite mask dropped. Unbelievable. Everything we do for you. Driving here every holiday. Bringing Mira. Checking in. And you can't even share 2 empty rooms? You don't check in, I corrected gently. You visit when it's convenient, and that's fine, but don't rewrite the story. Leona pushed her chair back slightly. Ma, why are you being like this? You act like we're trying to harm you. I didn't respond. Not yet, because I wanted to hear every word they said, to have it recorded, documented, crystal clear. Ryan leaned forward with narrowed eyes. Maybe it's time to talk about whether you're still able to manage things on your own. There it was. The line she said would eventually appear. But Ryan didn't stop there, and his next comment was the one that set everything spiraling toward the explosion that followed. Ryan tapped his fingers on the table, each tap louder than the last. Then he spoke with a tone that was calm on the surface, but edged with something sharper underneath. Leona and I have talked about this. We're worried you're slipping a bit, Marina. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Slipping? I repeated. Leona didn't look at me. She stared at her plate, like the vegetables might rearrange themselves into a rescue note. Ma, please don't take this the wrong way. We've just noticed things. What things? Silence. Then Ryan jumped in. You forget appointments. I rescheduled the dentist because Mira had her ballet recital. You misplace your keys. Every human being misplaces keys. And last month you mixed up the gas and electric bills. That was the company's clerical error, which they corrected. Ryan shrugged like the details didn't matter. From our perspective, it looks like you're struggling. I watched him carefully. The confidence in his voice, the precision in his phrasing, the way he said, from our perspective, instead of we think. He wasn't guessing. He was laying groundwork. Aisha had warned me. If they plan to claim cognitive decline, they'll start with small observations twisted into patterns. I placed my fork down gently. Ryan, let's be clear. Are you suggesting I am no longer capable of managing my own life? I'm saying we're concerned, he answered, but the edge in his voice said something else entirely. Leona finally looked up. Her eyes were glossy, but not with sadness, with frustration. Ma, we're trying. You don't make anything easy. You refuse help. You shut us out. And now you're acting like we're the villains. I exhaled slowly. You're adults. You have your own home, your own child, your own responsibilities. I'm not asking you for anything. That's the point, Leona snapped. You never ask for anything. You pretend you're made of stone. And then when we offer you something practical, something that would benefit the whole family, you shoot it down. I kept my voice steady. Because it doesn't benefit me. Ryan leaned forward, both palms flat on the table. You're living in $1 million house, like it's some museum to your dead husband. My chest tightened for a moment. I saw Armin's old reading glasses on the shelf behind Ryan, his photograph on the mantel, his handwriting framed on the wall. My grief had softened over the years, but it was still mine, not theirs to weaponize. Don't use Armin to justify your decisions, I said. Ryan's voice rose. Then stop hiding behind his memory to justify yours. Leona flinched. Even she hadn't expected that. For a moment, the room was completely still. Mira had stopped eating. Her small eyes darted between the adults, reading the tension like children do, instinctively, accurately, silently. Sweetheart, I told her softly, why don't you go start the movie you wanted to watch? I'll help you pick something. She nodded quickly and slipped off her chair, clearly relieved to leave the table. Once she was gone, Ryan didn't bother lowering his voice. Let's be honest, he said. This resistance isn't about privacy. It's about control. You'd rather live alone and rot in this house than help your own family. I pushed my chair back quietly. This conversation is getting out of hand. Leona stood too. Ma, we're not finished. I am. No, she insisted, her voice sharp. You owe us an explanation. I looked at both of them, calm, certain. I don't owe you access to my home. That's the only explanation you need. Ryan's jaw clenched. We're running out of options, Moina. Options for what? I asked. He didn't answer, but his eyes told me enough. Because what he did next, a single impulsive act, would turn a tense argument into something far more dangerous. and it would change the entire course of what came after. Ryan's chair scraped loudly against the floor as he stood. His expression tightened into something he could no longer mask. I could see the anger rising in him, the kind that starts as frustration but quickly sharpens into entitlement. "Do you even hear yourself?" he demanded. "You're pushing away the only family you have left." I stayed standing. Family doesn't disappear just because they don't get what they want. Leona stepped between us, her voice trembling. "Ma, we're trying to make your life easier. Why are you treating us like enemies?" "Because you're not listening," I said softly. I said no. A boundary isn't hostility. Ryan let out a humorless laugh. "A boundary? Is that what we're calling it now? Do you have any idea how much pressure we're under? How much we've done to keep things afloat?" Leona touched his arm. "Ryan," but he shook her off. "No, I'm done sugarcoating." His eyes snapped to me. "We can't keep carrying everything on our backs while you sit in a house worth more than everything we own combined." Ah, there it was. Not concern, not love, not family. Money. He took a step toward me. "If you're not going to help us, then why should we keep helping you? Why should we keep visiting? Why should we keep bringing Mira here?" Leona's head jerked toward him, shocked. "Ryan, don't drag Mira into this." But he wasn't done. "You don't see what you're doing, Marina. You're clinging to this house like it's the only thing that gives your life meaning, but you're alone. You need support. Real support. Not the imaginary independence you pretend to have." I kept my voice steady. "I don't pretend anything. I know exactly who I am and what I can manage." Ryan took another step forward. "Too close now. You're in denial." I didn't move back. "And you're overstepping." Something in his face snapped, like he was tired of playing polite, and finally dropped the act. "You want the truth?" he said. "We're drowning. Bills, mortgage, daycare, everything. My parents are paying half our expenses. And now they're about to be without a home because we counted on this arrangement. You put them in that position." My heartbeat slowed, not from fear, but from clarity. "You counted on it," I corrected. "Not them." He didn't deny it. Leona whispered, "Ryan, stop." He didn't. "You sit here, guarding this place like some museum piece. Meanwhile, we're killing ourselves trying to survive. And all we asked, was that you share a little space. But no, you'd rather break your own daughter's heart." My chest tightened at that. He knew exactly where to aim. Before I could speak, Ryan grabbed his glass of spiced tea, still half full, and flung it in my direction. Not the cup itself, but the hot liquid. It splashed across my face, my clothes, the tablecloth. The cup hit the edge of the table and shattered. A shard grazed my brow, leaving a thin slice that began to bleed instantly. Leona gasped. "Ryan, what are you doing?" Mira, who had been at the living room door, watching the argument widen like a crack in a wall, screamed. I touched my forehead, felt warm blood mix with sticky tea. Very calmly, I turned to Leona. "I need to go to the hospital." Leona rushed toward me, trembling. "Ma, I'm so sorry, he didn't mean." "Yes," I said quietly. "He did." Ryan looked stunned, as if even he didn't fully understand how far he'd gone. "I'm leaving," I said. "Please take Mira home." They didn't move as I walked past them, grabbed my keys, and stepped into the cold evening air. But as I drove myself to the emergency room, I wasn't thinking about the pain. I was thinking about the plan Aisha and I had built, and how this moment, this explosion, was exactly what we had prepared for. Because the hospital visit wasn't the end of the confrontation. It was only the beginning, and what happened next would put everything into motion. The emergency room on a holiday evening was crowded, but manageable. A nurse took one look at the blood trickling down my eyebrow and guided me to triage. As I sat there, pressing a folded cloth to my forehead, I finally messaged Aisha. It happened. Heading to hospital now. Her reply came within seconds. "I'm on my way. Don't speak to your daughter or son-in-law. Document everything." I leaned back, letting the antiseptic smell of the hospital settle something inside me. I wasn't shaken. Not really. I felt more relieved. Like a long, tightened knot had finally snapped. Aisha arrived 20 minutes later, her coat still half-buttoned, hair slightly windswept. She pulled up a chair in front of me. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did. Every word I could remember, every tone, every shift in Ryan's expression. every moment leading to that impulsive decision to throw scalding tea across the table. Aisha typed quickly on her tablet. "This is exactly what I expected, Marina." He escalated. She enabled. They created a pressure scenario, and the minute you held a boundary, he snapped. "It was tea," I murmured. "It could have been worse." Aisha looked up. "The object doesn't matter. A thrown liquid, resulting in injury. This is assault, and because of your age, it qualifies for additional consideration under elder abuse guidelines." I nodded slowly. "I just didn't expect it to get physical." "You rarely do," she said softly. "But you handled it perfectly. You left. You sought medical care. Now everything is documented." A nurse called me in. The doctor cleaned the cut, applied liquid stitches, and checked for signs of concussion. Thankfully, none. When I came back out, Aisha was speaking quietly with two uniformed officers, an older female sergeant and a younger constable. The sergeant approached me. "Miss Diallo, we're here to take your statement. Your lawyer has briefed us. We'll also need photographs of the injury and the clothing you were wearing." I handed over my tea-soaked blouse, carefully folded to preserve the evidence. The sergeant photographed the wound above my brow. "Do you feel safe returning home tonight?" she asked. "I do," I said, "but I want a no-contact condition put in place, at least temporarily." The sergeant nodded. "Given the circumstances, that will be recommended. We'll be filing an assault charge, likely assault with a weapon, considering the liquid and broken cup. Because of your age, it may be flagged under elder abuse statutes as well." Hearing the phrase elder abuse still felt surreal. I didn't feel elderly. I felt alert, capable, prepared. Aisha glanced at me. "This is just the legal terminology," she said gently. The officers finished the paperwork and promised to update us within 24 hours. By the time Aisha drove me home, the city streets were quiet, calm. The kind of calm that makes the world feel suspended in time. Inside the house, everything was exactly as I left it. The dishes still on the dining table, the broken cup shard on the floor, the chair Ryan shoved still slightly crooked. Aisha scanned the room. "The cameras? Already saved to the cloud," I said. "Audio and video." Her eyes warmed with approval. "Good. That footage is going to be important." I exhaled shakily, not from fear, but from something close to vindication. "What happens now?" I asked. Aisha put a hand on my shoulder. "Now," she said, "we go on offense." But neither of us knew that the police investigation would uncover something even deeper, something that would shift the entire case in a direction none of us expected. By the next morning, the wound on my forehead had turned into a thin, reddish line, not deep, but visible enough to remind me of everything that had unfolded. I made tea in silence, letting the warmth steady me. At 10 a.m., Aisha called. "The police followed up with Ryan and Leona early this morning," she said, "and something interesting came up." I sat down at the kitchen table. Interesting how? They both admitted there was financial stress. But Ryan said something else, something very revealing. He claimed they were monitoring your financial health and checking whether you were still capable of managing on your own. My grip tightened on the teacup. Aisha continued. "He told the officers he tried accessing your investment account for your own good. He even tried to frame it as concern." A cold wave rolled through me. He admitted he tried to access my account? "He did." Aisha paused. "But he claims he only wanted to see if you were falling behind on anything. He said he noticed lapses, confusion, forgetfulness." I almost laughed. "What lapses?" "The ones he invented," Aisha said. "He's building a narrative, Marina. But the problem for him is that we already built a stronger one. The cognitive assessment, the doctor's report, the security logs, the cameras, the documented conversations. Every piece was falling exactly where it needed to. What happens with him now?" I asked. "At minimum, a report for attempted financial exploitation," Aisha said. "The RCMP is reviewing whether his actions fall under the criminal code. They're also flagging his access attempt to the bank." I breathed out slowly. "Good." Then Aisha hesitated, something she didn't do often. "There's more." I waited. The officers obtained a statement from Ryan's parents as well. They confirmed that Ryan told them moving into your home was already arranged. He told them you offered the rooms months ago. My chest tightened. "Offered? I've never even discussed that possibility with them." "I know," Aisha said, but Ryan told his parents your house was practically theirs. They already packed most of their belongings. They even put down a deposit on movers. I pressed a hand to my forehead. He truly believed this was going to happen. He didn't just believe it, Aisha replied. He structured his parents' life around it. I pictured Ryan's mother proudly telling me the house was too big for one woman. I pictured his father measuring my hallway with his eyes the last time he visited, making casual comments about furniture arrangements. Pieces clicked together. Ryan hadn't panicked last night because I said no. He panicked because my no dismantled an entire plan he had already set in motion. Aisha took a breath. The officers asked him why he didn't wait for your consent before making such arrangements. What did he say? That he assumed you'd eventually agree. And if you didn't, he'd have to help you reach the right decision. The words rang in my head like a warning bell. Help me reach the right decision, I repeated. Aisha's voice sharpened. This is exactly why we had to prepare, Marina. He didn't see you as a parent. He saw you as an obstacle. The house felt suddenly colder. What happens next? I asked quietly. A restraining order for Ryan, she said. Not just for his wife, and additional protections for you. I nodded, absorbing it all. But Aisha wasn't done. Marina, the officers are asking if you want to move forward with full charges. Assault, attempted financial exploitation, misrepresentation, possibly coercion attempts. I closed my eyes. This was the moment everything would turn, and I knew what I had to do. But before I could decide, something unexpected happened. The one person I least expected showed up at my door, and what she said changed everything about how this story would unfold. It was early afternoon when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Aisha had already left after updating me on the police's progress, and I had planned to spend the rest of the day quietly, maybe in the garden, letting my mind settle. But when I checked the front camera feed, I froze. Leona, standing alone, arms wrapped tightly around herself, hair messy, eyes puffy, like she hadn't slept all night. I didn't open the door immediately, not out of anger, out of caution. The last 24 hours had changed the ground beneath us. I cracked the door but kept the chain on. Why are you here, Leona? She swallowed hard. Ma, please, just talk to me. I studied her face. She looked older than yesterday, and smaller somehow. After a long moment, I unlatched the chain and stepped aside. 5 minutes, I said. No raised voices. No arguments. She nodded quickly. Inside, she didn't sit. She hovered near the entryway like she didn't deserve to step further in. Ma, she began, her voice unsteady. I had no idea Ryan would do that. I didn't know he'd snap. I didn't know he'd been trying to access your accounts. I didn't know he told his parents you offered them rooms. I didn't know any of it. I watched her quietly. You believed him. She winced. I thought he was stressed. I thought he had it under control. I didn't see how far things had gone. Did you want his parents to move in? I asked. Leona hesitated, but not for long. Yes, she whispered. I did. I thought it would help us. I didn't think about how it would affect you. There it was, the truth she hadn't been able to say last night. She continued, We're drowning, Ma. Really drowning. Mira's daycare eats half my income. Our mortgage is suffocating us. Ryan's parents are relying on us, and we can't keep up. And when his mother mentioned how much space you had, it felt like a solution. Convenience, I said. For you. Leona's eyes filled with tears. I know. And I'm ashamed. I should have asked what you wanted, instead of assuming you'd just bend your life around ours. I stayed silent, letting her speak. Last night, she said, voice trembling. When Ryan threw that tea, something snapped in me. I realized we crossed a line no family should ever cross. I should have stopped him earlier. I should have defended you. I should have done 100 things differently. You should have, I agreed softly. But you didn't. She nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. I know, and I can't undo it. She finally sat, shoulders slumped. I'm not here to protect Ryan. I'm not here to make excuses. I'm here because I need to tell you something. I waited. She clenched her hands into fists. Ryan isn't coping. He's been hiding things from me too. Debts I didn't know about. Loans I didn't sign for. Decisions he made behind my back. I only found out this morning. The room went very still. Are you in danger? I asked. She shook her head. Not physically, but financially and emotionally? Yes, and I don't know what to do. Her voice broke. But I need you to know, Ma. I never meant to hurt you. I was desperate and blind, and I let him steer everything. I'm so sorry." I looked at her for a long moment. My daughter, flawed, frightened, trying to find her footing again. But apology or not, the consequences of last night weren't going to disappear. "Leona," I said softly, "there are things already in motion. Things I can't stop." She nodded, wiping her face. "I know. I'm not asking you to fix it. I just needed to tell you the truth." She stood. "I understand if you don't want me around for a while," she whispered. "But please, don't cut Mira off. She loves you." She had nightmares last night. My chest ached at that. But before I could respond, Leona said something that made my blood run cold. "Ma, Ryan is planning something. He told his parents this morning. Something about proving you can't live alone." I straightened. "Prove?" She nodded, terrified. And in that moment, I realized the situation wasn't just about last night's assault. Ryan was preparing to take things even further, and we had to act fast. For a second, everything went quiet. Even the ticking wall clock seemed to pause. "Prove I can't live alone," I repeated slowly. Leona nodded, eyes wide, fingers twisting nervously. "I don't know the details. I overheard him on the phone with his father early this morning. He was angry, really angry. He kept saying the police were overreacting, that you were fragile, that you were confused, and that they just needed to show that you weren't safe by yourself." My stomach tightened. "Show? How?" "I don't know," she whispered. But the way he said it, it scared me. I walked to the window and looked out at the quiet street. Ryan had always been controlling, but he'd never crossed into something calculated until now. And desperation made people do things they never imagined themselves capable of. I turned back to Leona. "Why are you telling me this?" She swallowed. "Because I can't protect him anymore, and I won't let him hurt you. Not again." Those words, coming from her, carried more weight than she realized. "Go home, Leona," I said gently. "Be with Mira. Keep her away from Ryan if he's unstable." She nodded quickly. "I've already arranged for her to stay with me at my friend Rachel's house tonight. I didn't want her in the environment Ryan is in right now." That eased something in my chest. Just before she opened the door to leave, she hesitated. "Ma, are you going to press full charges?" I didn't answer immediately. Even after everything, it wasn't a simple question. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. She nodded as though she expected that. Then she stepped out into the cold air and left. The moment the door closed, I called Aisha. She picked up on the first ring. "Marina? What's wrong?" "Ryan is planning something," I said. "Something about proving I'm unfit to be living alone." Aisha didn't hesitate. "I'm coming now. Don't open the door for anyone except me or the police." I stayed in the living room, pacing slowly. I checked the locks, checked the windows, checked the camera feeds. Everything was quiet, too quiet. 20 minutes later, Aisha arrived, her footsteps brisk, her jaw tight. I opened the door for her, and she stepped inside like a storm contained within a person. "What exactly did Leona say?" she asked. I repeated every detail. Aisha exhaled sharply. "He's escalating. He's losing control, and people who feel cornered tend to make reckless decisions. But the good news is, every action he takes now strengthens our case." "This doesn't feel like good news," I said quietly. "No," she agreed. "It feels frightening, but remember, we built this foundation months ago. You took the cognitive exam. You updated your legal documents. You installed cameras. Every safeguard is already in place." I nodded, taking steady breaths. Aisha sat down across from me. "I'm filing an emergency petition first thing tomorrow. We'll request a full restraining order, not just for his contact with you, but preventing him from approaching the property as well." "And tonight?" I asked. "Tonight you stay vigilant, and if he shows up, we call the police immediately." I looked out the window again. The street was empty, calm, perfectly ordinary. But under that calm, I could feel the shift, the sense that someone, somewhere, was deciding their next move. Aisha rested a hand on my arm. "Marina, listen to me. You're not alone in this. I'm not going anywhere." I nodded, grateful for her steadiness. But as night settled over the neighborhood, a message came through on my phone. A message that made both of us freeze. A notification from the outdoor camera. Movement detected at the front gate. We both turned toward the monitor, and what I saw standing there wasn't Ryan, but someone who made the situation even more complicated. The monitor's glow filled the room. My heart thumped loudly in my chest as I leaned closer. Outside, framed by the dim porch light, stood Ryan's father, alone. Hands in his pockets, his face unreadable. Not Ryan, not Leona, not even Ryan's mother, just him. I whispered to Aisha, "He's here." She leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the screen. "Do not open the door. Stay back." I stayed frozen, gripping the edge of the counter. The man shifted slightly, glanced around, then took a slow step toward the gate. I could see the outline of a small package in his hands. I dialed the police, whispering urgently, "Yes, I need the RCMP immediately. Someone from my family is at my gate. He appears alone, but he has a package." Aisha whispered in my ear, "Keep the camera on. Record everything. Make sure the front porch light is on." I obeyed. The package was too small to hold a person, but enough to worry anyone in this tense situation. Ryan's father stood for a long minute, then crouched slightly to place the package by the gate. I leaned in to zoom the camera. The package had a note pinned on top. I could just make out the handwriting. "Mom, please read. It explains everything." Aisha and I exchanged a sharp glance. "Do not touch it," she said firmly. "We don't know what's inside. The police will handle it." Minutes felt like hours. My fingers trembled as I watched Ryan's father retreat down the sidewalk, disappearing into the shadows. The police arrived within 15 minutes. 2 officers, professional and calm, secured the perimeter. They collected the package with gloves and placed it in evidence bags. One officer nodded to me. "Ma'am, can you confirm no one else is inside?" "Yes," I said. "Just me." Aisha explained the situation to the officers. "We have a pattern here. There's been attempted financial exploitation, an assault, and now this. We need everything documented." One officer nodded. "We'll take it from here. We'll examine the package and contact you immediately." I exhaled slowly, realizing how close this situation had come to spiraling further. Ryan had set a plan into motion, and now his parents were unwitting, or perhaps complicit, players in it. Aisha turned to me. "This isn't over, but you did everything right. You stayed calm, you documented, and you didn't confront him. That's how you protect yourself, legally and emotionally." I nodded, trying to absorb her words while my mind raced. The officers left after taking statements, and Aisha stayed with me, double-checking the camera feeds and making a plan for the night. "You should get some rest," she said. "Tomorrow, we file additional legal motions, ensure the restraining order covers the entire household, and we coordinate with the bank about Ryan's account access." I walked to the window one last time that evening. The quiet street was deceptively peaceful. The shadows of the street lamps stretched long, hinting at the tension still present in the night. I realized the situation was bigger than a single argument, bigger than a thrown cup or a bruise on my forehead. It was about control, about manipulation, and about protecting not only myself, but my home and my boundaries. Aisha packed her things, giving me a firm, reassuring look. "We'll get through this. Trust the process." And as she left, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and resolve, because even though Ryan's father had left the package, what we found inside would expose secrets none of us were ready for, and force the next move in a way I could never have anticipated. The package sat on the kitchen counter, sealed with care and unassuming brown paper. My hands hovered over it for what felt like an eternity. Aisha had instructed me not to touch it, and I hadn't. The police had taken it into custody for examination, but the anticipation gnawed at me. Minutes stretched like hours. The thought of what could be inside made my stomach tighten. Ryan's father was polite, composed, but I knew he had been part of the plan. Whether intentionally or out of loyalty to his son, he had played a role in escalating the situation. At 9:30 p.m., the phone rang. An officer on the line confirmed they had opened the package in a controlled environment. I listened intently. "It contains letters, Marina," he said, "financial documents, notes, and a handwritten confession from Ryan, addressed to you. He intended you to read this before anyone else. It outlines his plans for the house, the accounts, and his attempts to control your life." My chest tightened. I hadn't imagined this. Ryan had documented everything, assuming I would eventually agree to the arrangement. The audacity left me momentarily speechless. Aisha, standing beside me, exhaled sharply. This is exactly what we need. Every word in that package strengthens your case. The officer continued, we're going to keep the package as evidence for the upcoming proceedings. You don't need to see it in person yet, but rest assured, all of it has been logged, dated, and photographed. I nodded slowly, absorbing the weight of it. The meticulous planning Ryan had undertaken confirmed everything Aisha and I had feared. This wasn't a momentary lapse of judgment. It was a deliberate attempt to manipulate, control, and take advantage of me. Later that night, Aisha reviewed our next steps. Tomorrow morning, we file additional legal motions. The restraining order will be expanded to cover Ryan and his parents, ensuring no one approaches your property. The bank has been notified. We'll secure all financial accounts, reinforce estate documents, and update the trust to make it clear that any attempt at interference voids any claim Ryan might think he has. I listened, feeling a mixture of relief and exhaustion. It was overwhelming, but at least the plan was holding. For a moment, I allowed myself to think about Mira. I missed her, but I couldn't let Ryan's behavior put her or me at risk. She would be safe with Leona tonight, and I trusted my daughter to make the right decision. Aisha looked at me, her eyes steady. Marina, this will be difficult emotionally. Family dynamics can be messy, even when you're doing everything right. But remember, boundaries are survival. You've already taken the hardest steps by standing firm, documenting, and leaving when necessary. I took a deep breath. It feels surreal, I admitted, to realize that my own daughter's husband, someone I trusted, planned to take over my life. Aisha nodded. It's shocking, but you're prepared. You've been deliberate. Nothing Ryan or his family can do will catch you off guard now. I let the weight of that settle in. The house was quiet, the cameras running. My heart still pounded, but there was clarity in it. I knew exactly what was happening. Even if Ryan had thought he could manipulate the situation, he had underestimated me. And yet, even with the package secured and the authorities involved, I couldn't shake the feeling that the next move would come from a place I hadn't anticipated, and it would test every boundary I had set. The next morning, the house felt unusually silent. The soft sunlight filtered through the curtains, painting the living room in gold. I moved slowly, bandaged eyebrows still tender, but my mind was clear and sharp. No lingering fear, just a quiet determination. Aisha arrived mid-morning, carrying a thick file and her tablet. Everything is ready, she said. Court filings, restraining orders, trust documents, bank notifications are finalized. We're closing every loophole Ryan might try to exploit. I nodded. And the package? Secure and logged, she replied. Everything Ryan wrote is part of the evidence. His plan to manipulate, the attempt to take control. It's all documented and verifiable. The authorities have it, and it will be included in the proceedings. I felt a calm certainty settle over me. Months of preparation had led to this moment. No one could catch me unawares anymore. Not Ryan, not his parents, not anyone else trying to take advantage of me. The day moved slowly, filled with practicalities. I checked the cameras, reviewed the legal notices, and confirmed the banks had frozen any potential access. Mira would remain with Leona, away from the tension, for her safety. By evening, the house finally felt like my own again. The scent of freshly brewed tea and the lingering aroma of jasmine from the small garden outside reminded me